I arrived at the gate 30 minutes before departure. Early, like always. I liked having time to review the flight plan, check the weather, get settled before the rush of boarding started. The aircraft was a 737. Seattle to Denver, 2-hour flight. Nothing complicated. Enjoying the content? Subscribe now to stay updated on your phone. My co-pilot was already in the cockpit when I walked down the jetway. I could see him through the open door, sitting in the right seat, feet up on the instrument panel. He was scrolling through his phone, laughing at something on the screen. I stepped into the cockpit and set my flight bag down. "Hi," I said. "I'm Captain Morgan. Looks like we're flying together today." He glanced up briefly. His smile faded when he saw me. He didn't say anything, just looked back at his phone. I waited a moment. "And you are?" I asked. He sighed like I was interrupting something important. "Ryan," he said. Didn't offer his last name. Didn't offer his hand. Just went back to his phone. The energy in the cockpit shifted. Went cold. I started unpacking my things. Headset, checklist, water bottle. Setting up my side of the cockpit. Ryan watched me from the corner of his eye. I could feel his judgment. His assessment. Whatever he was thinking, he wasn't bothering to hide it. "So how long have you been flying?" he asked. The question sounded casual, but his tone wasn't. There was something underneath it. Something testing. I'd heard that tone before. Many times. 12 years commercially, I said. "You?" 5, he said. Then added, "But I came up through military. Fighter jets. Real flying." The implication was clear. That his 5 years counted more than my 12. That his experience was somehow more legitimate, more real. I didn't respond. Just continued setting up. I pulled out the flight plan and started reviewing it. Fuel load, weather, routing, alternates. Everything looked standard. Ryan was still on his phone. Not looking at the pre-flight paperwork, not doing any checks, just sitting there like he was waiting for something. "You want to start the checklist?" I asked. He looked at me. Really looked at me for the first time. His expression was somewhere between amused and dismissive. "You're actually the captain?" he asked. They weren't joking about that? I felt my jaw tighten. "Yes," I said. "I'm the captain, which means I'm pilot flying today. You're pilot monitoring. So let's start the checklist." He shook his head slightly. A small movement, but I saw it. The disbelief, the resistance. "Go get me a coffee," he said. Not a request, a command. He said it casually, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like I was there to serve him. I stared at him. "Excuse me?" I said. "Coffee," he repeated. "Black, 2 sugars. The gate agent usually has some. You're up anyway." He gestured vaguely toward the door. Like I should just go. Like this was normal. Like this was my job. I felt heat rising in my face. "I'm not getting you coffee," I said quietly. "I'm the captain. I'm your superior officer on this flight. We need to start the pre-flight checklist. Now." My voice was calm, controlled, but inside I was furious, shaking. He laughed. Actually laughed. "Superior officer," he repeated, mocking the words. "This isn't the military, sweetheart. And I don't care what the schedule says. Everyone knows how this works. Everyone knows why you're sitting in that seat." I took a breath, tried to stay calm. "We're starting the checklist," I said. "Overhead panel, battery switch." I pointed to the checklist, the standard procedure, the way every flight started. He didn't move, just sat there, staring at me. "You know what?" he said. "I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not comfortable flying with someone who clearly doesn't have the experience to be captain. Someone who only got here because of quotas, because airlines are too scared to hire based on merit anymore. I earned this position," I said. My voice was harder now, less controlled. "The same way you earned yours, through training, through hours, through check rides. I have more flight time than you do, more commercial experience. I'm qualified to be here." He shrugged. "If you say so. But I'm still not flying with you." He unbuckled his seatbelt and stood up. "I'm going to talk to scheduling. Get reassigned. They can find someone else to babysit you." He grabbed his bag and headed toward the cockpit door. I stood up too. "If you walk out that door," I said, "I'm filing a report for insubordination, for refusing to perform your duties, for creating a hostile work environment. Your choice." My heart was pounding. I'd never done this before. Never had to threaten a crew member. He stopped at the door, turned back. "You're going to report me?" he asked. "For what? Having legitimate concerns about safety, about crew qualifications? Good luck with that. You'll just prove everyone right, that women can't handle pressure." "The pressure I can handle," I said. It's disrespectful assholes I have a problem with. Now either sit down and do your job or leave and I'll fly with a different first officer. But make a decision. We have passengers boarding in 10 minutes. He stared at me for a long moment. I could see him calculating, weighing his options. Whatever he saw in my face made him decide. He dropped his bag and sat back down. Fine, he said, but I'm documenting this. Every detail, every mistake, every little thing. You do that? I said. I sat back down and picked up the checklist. Overhead panel, battery switch. This time he responded. On, he said. His voice was flat, emotionless, but he was doing it. We went through the rest of the checklist in silence. Each response clipped. Minimal. The lead flight attendant, Karen, appeared at the door. Ready for boarding? She asked. She looked between us, sensed the tension, didn't comment on it. I nodded. We're ready. She left, and I could hear the announcement. Boarding beginning for flight 2847 to Denver. Ryan and I finished the pre-flight in complete silence. He didn't speak unless responding to the checklist. Didn't make eye contact. Just did the minimum required. The cockpit felt hostile, heavy, like the air itself was angry. Passengers started filing past. I could hear them settling into their seats. The normal sounds of boarding. Overhead bins closing. People asking about seat assignments. Kids complaining. All of it familiar. Comforting almost. Out there, things were normal. I made my announcement. Good morning, this is Captain Morgan from the flight deck. Welcome aboard. Flight time to Denver today is approximately 2 hours. Weather looks good. Should be a smooth flight. My voice sounded normal. Professional. Like nothing was wrong. Ryan snorted quietly. Just loud enough for me to hear. I ignored him. We finished the remaining checks. Got our clearance. I started the engines. Everything mechanical. Everything by the book. This part I could control. This part made sense. Seattle ground, Alaska 2847, ready to push, Ryan said into the radio. His voice was different on the radio. Professional, cooperative, like he was a different person. Like the hostility disappeared when others could hear him. Enjoying the content? Subscribe now to stay updated on your phone. We pushed back and I started taxiing toward the runway. Ryan handled the radio calls. I focused on steering, on the procedures, on doing my job despite the tension, despite the anger that was still burning in my chest. You know this is going to end badly, Ryan said suddenly. We were holding short of the runway, waiting for clearance. What is? I asked. I didn't look at him, just watched the runway, watched another plane take off. This whole situation, he said. Women in the cockpit. It's not natural. It's not safe. And eventually something's going to happen. Someone's going to make a mistake. And then everyone will realize this was a bad idea. That some things should stay the way they were. I turned to look at him. Do you hear yourself? I asked. Do you realize how absurd that sounds? Women have been flying for decades. Military pilots, commercial pilots, test pilots, astronauts. And the accident rates are the same. The safety records are the same. For now, he said. But you're putting people at risk, making this about politics instead of competence. And when something goes wrong, it'll be on you. On all of you. He said it with such certainty, such confidence. Like he knew something I didn't. Alaska 2847 cleared for takeoff runway 16 right, tower called. I took a breath, let it out slowly. Cleared for takeoff 16 right, Alaska 2847, Ryan responded. I taxied onto the runway. This was my job. This was what I was good at. I couldn't let him get in my head. I advanced the throttles. The engines spooled up. The aircraft accelerated down the runway. 80 knots, V1, rotate. I pulled back on the yoke and we lifted off. Gear up, flaps up, climb power, Seattle falling away below us. Positive rate, Ryan called. Gear up, I confirmed. We worked through the after takeoff checklist. Our voices mechanical, professional. No emotion, just procedures. Just doing the job. But the hostility remained, thick and present. We leveled off at 35,000 feet. I engaged the autopilot, sat back, tried to let some of the tension out of my shoulders. Ryan was on his phone again, not doing anything, just sitting there, making it clear he didn't want to be here. You should be monitoring the instruments, I said. He looked at me. Everything's fine, he said. Autopilot's on, nothing to monitor. Unless you don't trust your programming? The implication was clear, that I didn't know what I was doing, that I needed hand-holding. It's procedure, I said. One pilot always monitoring. You know that. He shrugged. If you're worried about it, you monitor. I flew fighters. We didn't have someone holding our hand every second. We trusted our training, our instincts. I wanted to argue, wanted to explain that commercial flying was different, that procedures existed for a reason, that monitoring mattered. But I also knew it wouldn't help. He'd already decided I was wrong, that I was incompetent. Nothing I said would change that. The flight continued. I monitored everything. Fuel burn, systems, weather ahead. Ryan sat there scrolling through his phone. Occasionally he'd make a comment about female pilots he'd heard about incidents he claimed happened, each one designed to undermine, to plant doubt. There was this pilot in Europe, he said at one point. Woman captain, landed gear up, forgot to put the landing gear down. Can you imagine? Basic stuff. But everyone was too scared to say anything. Didn't want to seem sexist. So she kept flying until she screwed up. That's not true, I said. I know the incident you're talking about. The investigation showed it was a mechanical failure. The gear indicator malfunctioned. It had nothing to do with the pilot's gender. I'd read the report. I knew the facts. But facts didn't matter to him. That's what they said publicly, he replied, to protect the narrative. But everyone in the industry knows the truth, knows what really happened. You can't fight biology. Women aren't built for high-stress situations. They freeze, they panic. It's just science. I didn't respond. Couldn't trust myself to speak without yelling, without losing the professional composure I'd maintained for the last hour. I just focused on the instruments, on the flying, on getting to Denver safely despite having to deal with this. About 90 minutes into the flight, we started our descent. I briefed the approach. Ryan acknowledged each point with minimal words. No questions, no discussion, just the bare minimum required. His way of showing he didn't respect me, didn't value my input. Denver approach vectored us toward the runway. I flew the approach manually, wanted to feel the aircraft, wanted the connection between my hands and the machine, wanted to prove even to myself that I could do this, that I was good at this. The approach was perfect. On speed, on glide path, small corrections, smooth. I could feel Ryan watching, could sense him waiting for a mistake, for something he could point to, some evidence that he was right, that I didn't belong here. 1,000 feet, 500, 200, the runway growing larger. I pulled back slightly on the yoke, felt the main wheels kiss the concrete. Smooth, barely a bump. One of those landings pilots dream about, the kind that proves skill, shows experience. Not bad, Ryan said. The first positive thing he'd said all flight, but his tone made it clear he'd expected worse, had been waiting for me to mess up. The landing had disappointed him, proved him wrong, and he couldn't quite hide that. We taxied to the gate, shut down the engines, completed the parking checklist, everything routine, everything normal, except for the tension that still filled the cockpit. That had been there since before we even took off. That never went away. I'm still filing a report, Ryan said as he gathered his things, about your conduct, about the hostile environment you created, about your refusal to accept legitimate feedback and concerns. He said it like he believed it, like he was the victim here. Go ahead, I said, and I'll be filing mine. About your insubordination, your refusal to follow procedures, your hostile attitude, your discriminatory comments. We'll see which one corporate takes more seriously. I kept my voice level, calm, professional to the end. He stood at the cockpit door. You know what your problem is? He asked. You think you're the same as us? Think you can do what we do, but you can't. And deep down, you know it. That's why you're so defensive, so aggressive, because you know you don't really belong. I looked at him, really looked at him. Get out, I said quietly. Get out of my cockpit, now. Something in my voice made him move. He grabbed his bag and left. I heard his footsteps on the jetway, then silence. I sat there in the empty cockpit for a long moment, just breathing, trying to let go of the anger, the frustration, the hurt that came from having to deal with someone like him, from having to prove myself, from having to defend my right to be here. Karen came back. You okay? She asked. She'd clearly sensed something was wrong, had probably heard some of what happened through the thin cockpit door. I nodded. I'm fine. The lie came automatically. The professional mask. That first officer seemed like a real piece of work, she said carefully. I appreciated her saying it. Appreciated the validation. Yeah, I said. He was something. I gathered my things, started packing up, ready to get out of there, ready to be done with this flight. I walked through the empty cabin. All those seats that had been full of passengers who had no idea what was happening in the cockpit, who assumed everything was professional, cooperative, normal. They'd never know about the hostility, the discrimination, the fight just to do my job. The gate agent smiled when I came out. "Great flight, Captain. Right on time." She had no idea, no clue what I'd dealt with, what I'd endured. She just saw a successful flight, an on-time arrival, everything normal, everything fine. I walked through the Denver terminal. It was crowded, people rushing everywhere. I found a quiet corner and pulled out my phone, opened the company app, started filling out an incident report, detailed everything, every comment, every refusal, every hostile action. Enjoying the content? Subscribe now to stay updated on your phone. My hands were shaking as I typed, not from fear, from anger, from the injustice of having to deal with this, of having to document discrimination, of having to prove that what happened was wrong, that I wasn't overreacting, that it mattered. I finished the report and submitted it. Felt a small sense of relief. At least it was documented now. At least there was a record. Whether anything would happen because of it was another question. But at least I'd done my part. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But it could be scheduling. Could be important. "Hello?" I said. "Captain Morgan? This is Dave Chen from crew scheduling. We just received a report from First Officer Ryan Halloway about your flight today." My stomach dropped. He'd filed first. Had beaten me to it. "I just submitted my own report," I said. "About his conduct, his insubordination, his discriminatory comments." There was a pause on the other end. "We're going to need to investigate this," Dave said. "Both reports. Get statements from everyone involved. This is serious. Can you come to the crew lounge? We have someone who can take your statement right now." "Of course," I said. I walked to the crew lounge. A woman in a corporate blazer was waiting. She introduced herself as Linda from HR. We sat in a private room and I told her everything, every detail, every comment, every moment of hostility. She took notes, asked questions. Her expression was neutral, professional. I couldn't tell what she was thinking, whether she believed me, whether she thought I was overreacting, whether any of this mattered. I just told the truth and hoped it was enough. "We'll be interviewing the flight attendants as well," Linda said. "And First Officer Halloway. We take these complaints seriously, both of them. We'll conduct a thorough investigation and make a determination." She stood up. "You're free to go. We'll be in touch." I left the crew lounge feeling drained, exhausted. Not from the flying. Flying was easy, but from everything else. From having to fight, from having to defend myself, from having to prove that discrimination happened, that it mattered, that I deserved better. I found my hotel shuttle and rode in silence. The driver tried to make small talk. I couldn't engage. Just nodded and looked out the window. At Denver passing by, at the mountains in the distance, at the clear sky that should have made this a perfect flying day. At the hotel, I checked in and went straight to my room, dropped my bag, sat on the bed. The anger was fading now, being replaced by something else. Sadness, maybe. Disappointment. The exhaustion that came from realizing this would probably happen again. I ordered room service. Didn't really taste it. Turned on the TV. Some show I didn't watch. Just needed noise, needed distraction, needed something to keep my mind from replaying every moment, every comment, every hostile look. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I opened it. "You made a big mistake today. You don't know who you're dealing with. I have friends in this company. This isn't over." I stared at it. Ryan. Had to be Ryan. I took a screenshot, saved it, added it to my evidence, then blocked the number. I wasn't going to engage, wasn't going to let him intimidate me. I'd done my job, flown safely, filed my report. That's all I could do. Another text came through. Different number. "This is Karen from your flight. Just wanted to check on you." That first officer was completely out of line. I heard some of what he said. I gave my statement to HR. I hope it helps. I felt tears prick my eyes, not from sadness, from relief, from gratitude that someone had witnessed it, had backed me up, had confirmed I wasn't crazy, wasn't overreacting, that it really happened the way I said it did. "Thank you," I typed back. "That means more than you know." She responded immediately. "Hang in there. You're a great captain. Don't let people like him make you doubt that." I set my phone down and just sat there, breathing, processing. I thought about Ryan, about his confidence that he was right, his certainty that I didn't belong, his casual cruelty in demanding I get him coffee, like I was there to serve him, like my rank meant nothing, like I meant nothing. I thought about all the other pilots like him, the ones who thought women didn't belong in cockpits, who saw us as diversity hires, as boxes checked, as threats to some natural order. And I felt tired. So tired of fighting. So tired of proving myself. But I also knew I'd keep fighting, keep proving, keep showing up. Because giving up meant letting people like Ryan win. Meant accepting that they were right, and they weren't right. They were wrong about everything. I lay back on the bed, stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow I'd fly back to Seattle. Different first officer, I hoped. Different crew. Fresh start. But the memory of today would stay with me. Would join all the other memories of discrimination, of hostility, of having to fight for basic respect. My phone buzzed again. An email this time. From corporate. Thank you for your report. We take these matters seriously. An investigation has been opened. You'll be contacted if we need additional information. In the meantime, you've been reassigned for tomorrow's flight. You will not be crewing with First Officer Holloway. I felt relief. At least that was something. At least I wouldn't have to face him again tomorrow. Wouldn't have to walk into another cockpit wondering if it would be hostile. If I'd have to fight again just to do my job. I closed my eyes. Tried to sleep. But my mind kept racing. Kept replaying moments. Kept thinking of things I should have said. Ways I could have handled it better. Whether I'd been too aggressive. Too defensive. Whether I'd somehow made it worse. Eventually, exhaustion won. I drifted off. Slept fitfully. Woke up too early. The room was still dark. I lay there listening to Denver outside my window. Traffic, sirens, the sounds of a city waking up, people starting their days, normal days, easy days. I got up, showered, put on my uniform, looked at myself in the mirror, captain's stripes on my shoulders, wings on my chest, symbols of rank, of achievement, of years of training and experience. But to someone like Ryan, they meant nothing. I packed my bag and headed down to the lobby. The shuttle was waiting. I climbed in. 2 other crew members were already there. They nodded at me. Friendly, normal, no hostility, no tension, just colleagues heading to work. At the airport, I went through security, walked to my gate. My new first officer was already there, a woman in her 30s. She stood when she saw me, extended her hand. Captain Morgan, I'm Sarah, looking forward to flying with you. We walked to the aircraft together, started the pre-flight. She was professional, courteous, asked good questions, responded promptly to checklist items. The cockpit felt different, lighter, normal, the way it should be. I heard about yesterday, Sarah said carefully as we worked through the checklist. About what happened with Holloway. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. He's got a reputation. Everyone knows he's an asshole. Thanks, I said. It helped knowing others knew, that he had a history, that I wasn't the first person he'd treated poorly. But it also made me sad, that he'd gotten away with it before, that it took my report to finally get attention. We finished the pre-flight. Passengers boarded. I made my announcement. We pushed back on time. Everything normal. Everything smooth. Sarah and I worked well together, communicated clearly, respected each other, the way crews were supposed to work. The flight back to Seattle was easy. Good weather, no issues. Sarah was a good pilot, handled the radio well, monitored instruments carefully, asked for clarification when needed, didn't assume, didn't fight me, just did her job, just flew. We landed in Seattle right on time. Another smooth landing, another successful flight. Sarah smiled as we shut down the engines. Great flying with you, Captain. Hope we get paired again. I smiled back. Me too. I walked through the terminal feeling lighter. Yesterday's weight hadn't completely lifted. Might never completely lift. But today had been good, had been normal, had been what flying should be. Cooperative, professional, respectful. My phone buzzed. An email from Linda in HR. Investigation update. We've interviewed all parties and reviewed the evidence. First Officer Holloway has been suspended pending further review. We'll be in touch with additional updates. Thank you for your detailed report. I stopped walking. Read it again. Suspended. He'd been suspended. Because of my report. Because of Karen's statement. Because what he did was wrong. Actually wrong. Provably wrong. And the company was taking it seriously. I felt validation, relief, but also awareness that this wasn't over. That the investigation would continue. That Ryan would probably fight back. Would probably try to discredit me. Would use his friends in the company like he'd threatened. This was just the beginning. But for now, I'd take it. Take the small victory. The acknowledgement that I'd been wronged, that his behavior was unacceptable, that I deserved better, that female pilots deserved better, that we all deserved basic respect. I walked out of the airport into the Seattle rain. It felt good, cleansing somehow, washing away some of yesterday's anger, some of the hurt, not all of it, but enough. Enough to breathe a little easier. Enough to feel like maybe, just maybe, things could get better. I got in my car and drove home. Tomorrow I'd have another flight, another crew, another chance for something to go wrong, or another chance for everything to go right. No way to know. Just had to keep showing up, keep flying, keep proving I belonged. Because I did belong. In that cockpit, in that captain's seat, I'd earned it. Through training, through hours, through skill. Not because of quotas, not because of politics. Because I was good. Because I loved flying. Because this was what I was meant to do. And no one, not Ryan, not anyone else who doubted me could take that away. They could make it harder, could make it painful, could make me fight for every inch. But they couldn't take it away. That was mine. I'd earned it. And I wasn't giving it up. I pulled into my driveway, sat in the car for a moment, just breathing, just being. Tomorrow would come, with its challenges, its uncertainties, its possibilities for both good and bad. But tonight, I could rest, could let go, could just be. I went inside, made dinner, sat on my couch, turned on a movie, let myself relax, let myself stop thinking about Ryan, about the investigation, about tomorrow. Just existed in this moment, this quiet evening, this peace. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Sarah, my first officer from today. Thanks for being such a great captain to fly with. Made my day better. See you up there. I smiled, typed back a quick thank you, then set my phone aside. That's what I'd focus on. The good cruise, the good days, the flights that went well, the respect I did receive, not the hostility, not the discrimination, not the people like Ryan who wanted to tear me down, but the people like Sarah who built me up. Because in the end, they were the majority. The Ryans were loud, were memorable, were painful, but they weren't everyone. Most pilots were professional, respectful, good at their jobs, and that's what mattered. That's what I'd hold on to. I closed my eyes. Tomorrow I'd fly again, and I'd be good at it. Because I always was.